Hey guys, today's video is going to come from the making of Star Wars Return of the Jedi Chapter 3. So what if Luke took over the Empire? That was a possibility brought up in the story meeting between Lucas and his production team, when they were trying to figure out what would happen in Episode 6. Now at this point in their meeting, things got a little heated between Lucas and his screenwriter Lawrence Kasdan, as they were trying to figure out how to end the movie and how to get the Emperor onto the second Death Star without him coming off like a dummy for leaving himself so vulnerable to attack. Now, I've done videos before about what might happen if Luke had taken his father up on his offer to join him, but that was if he fell to the dark side. Here they are talking about light side Luke. Can he become a Jedi Emperor and ruler of the whole galaxy? Now, I'm going to cover the transcript from that discussion, but I must say that would make a pretty cool theory episode. So Lawrence Kasdan says, I am telling you that the key is to stick Luke into the center of this in an effective way, so that in fulfilling his destiny, he helps the rebellion to defeat the Empire. That is what we are not doing. There has to be some transfer of power from the Emperor to Luke. That would be very poetic in terms of your whole story. That would be the perfect thing if you had a moment when all these Imperial guys see Luke take over. That would be a real Olympian conclusion to this trilogy. Lucas says, explain that further. Lawrence Kasdan continues. Luke usurps all the power of the Emperor in their final confrontation and is recognized as the ultimate power in the galaxy. Where George Lucas cuts in and he says, Luke can't rule the universe, because if he's destroyed, the Emperor and consequently the Empire, then it's a republic again and the Senate will come back. They will elect their own officials. He is a warrior. He is a Jedi Knight. He does not want to be mayor. He does not want to be president. He has sworn to be a police officer, and that's what he wants to do. Then there's a little more back and forth, but here we get to this. Richard Marquand says, I am surprised at you guys. You spend a lot of time throwing scorn on each other's ideas. I must say this, that what you have got to get to is an agreement. You are in a situation where Luke has won, and therefore there's not really any point in going on with the story. Where Kasdan says, it's a wimpy ending though. Lucas says this, Larry, if we went the old method, the plot that was laid out this morning, the whole idea of the trap, the Death Star is supposed to be inactive, it is not, it is very active, the Rebel fleet gets trapped, the Death Star starts firing at them and blowing up their ships, and the whole sequence ends with the Death Star blowing up. Now, all I am saying is that the only negative consequence to that idea is that it makes the Emperor seem kind of stupid, but I would rather get a script that sort of works, then we can finesse the story so it doesn't seem that the Emperor was as dumb. It all has to do with how you give information out to the audience, how the Emperor describes what his plan is, how much of it the audience understands. And that's pretty much how we ended up with the Emperor arriving on the second Death Star, and of course, Luke becoming a Jedi, but not the Emperor. Now, there was another variation where Luke actually puts on Darth Vader's helmet once his father dies, and this was goes way back, apparently. So he puts on Vader's helmet and he says, now I am Vader. And he was basically just supposed to become this evil Darth Vader himself, just continue his father's legacy. But of course that was scrapped and they didn't do that. Now, I agree with Lucas that a Jedi would not want to rule, but it is fun to speculate. There is an old theory that the Emperor built up his military because he wanted to prepare for an external threat coming from the unknown regions. That Snoke was somehow connected to it. Or, now we know that he created Snoke. So I don't really know how that all ties in, but I just kind of think of the first 6 movies as the George Lucas era, and then the rest is just sort of a tie-on, an add-on that didn't really need to happen, and it's just sort of like the continuation of the children of Skywalker and the children of Palpatine and whatnot. But the first 6, I just kind of don't want to connect as much to the sequel trilogy. It's 2 different creators, really. And at this time when George was making the originals, he hadn't even made the prequels yet. He wanted to, he actually wrote the prequels, but he didn't have the money to make them in CGI, which required a lot of technology that we didn't have at that time in the 80s, I guess. I wouldn't know, I wasn't alive then. But as for his story, it all ended with 6. So, I've heard also that he's had different ideas for doing a 7, 8, 9, and I've made a few videos on those as well, but those aren't, of course, concrete. He just had different sort of ideas for, such as a character named Kira, which I guess later turned out to be Rey. But of course a lot of things got changed up, and I'm not really sure if he was on board with bringing the Emperor back. I know he said once that the Emperor should come back, but that's so far in the past, and then Legends it did, and I don't really know if he really was a fan of that or not. But also the fact that he didn't show up to the premiere to episode 9 just kind of makes me think, well, he probably doesn't really agree where the story went after that, and he seems to be happy with episode 6 being the ending. And that's kind of how I think too. Now, what would be cool is if the Emperor revealed that there was some bigger power or another power out there before he died, and he revealed this to Luke. That would have been really sweet, because then it would tie in the sequels even better. Which is why I think they should have made Snoke to be Darth Plagueis, because that just ties everything, but opportunity missed. Now, seeing that a democracy would leave the galaxy too weak to defend themselves, Luke could, if we stretch it, decide to sit on the throne. He would have to betray the rebellion and always try to prevent himself from giving into the dark side. It could be interesting. Anyways, let me know your thoughts, and I'm going to get more of these kinds of videos out for you guys. I love covering the backstories of them way back in, I think it was like 2017, where I was covering the making of Revenge of the Sith. Have an awesome rest of your day. Hit like if you enjoyed this one, and I'll see you in the next video. Until then, remember, the Force will be with you, always.